Devin. This is Garrett, and welcome to the very first episode of the Vessel Podcast. Uh, on this podcast, we're going to talk about fitness, faith, family, some business stuff. Specifically on this podcast, we're going to talk about how me and Garrett met. We're going to talk about really how Vessel all came to be. You know, we've talked about on other podcasts like in short form, 2 to 3 minutes, but today we're going to be able to really go down some rabbit holes and tell some funny stories and that hopefully you guys can relate to. So if that is of any interest to anybody, hopefully you'll subscribe and like and comment and do all the things. So Garrett, let's talk about how me and you very first met.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I was like, I don't know an exact like day, but I mean it was during spring football practice. So we actually got to, I wouldn't say actually practice, but we got to be there and like observe and kind of lightly go through drills as eighth graders going to ninth grade year. So I believe that's where we met. You came from Heritage, coming over. I was already at Ringgold, and that's kind of how we briefly met. But I mean, obviously, the relationship deeper as time went on.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking about too. We, spring football, we were both kind of in the same group. And you can see like the like-minded individuals, the kids that really like go hard and practice hard. They just kind of gravitate towards one another, and I think that's kind of where we are, or kind of where we were.
Yeah.
But like, when did we start being friends? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
sitting at the same lunch table.
I would
I
say
don't remember.
I think I would say sophomore year is when it really took off.
Yeah, sophomore year. Um, and then when did we start like working out and training hard together?
I mean, I think like really January of our senior year is when we really like we both had aspiration goals and dreams to play at the next level at our respective sports, and so we kind of like took that step to train together. You, me, Peyton, some other guys, um, and then we would we'd spend like hours at the field house. And we basically lived there. So um, so January of 2016 is when we really started like training real hard, and that's kind of when we got into like CrossFit and the cross style training.
Yeah, leading up to that, like you worked out because you have an older brother.
Yeah.
I don't have any siblings, so like I didn't get to see anybody else really like work out hard. What what you were always strong in the weight room, like at any type of workouts we did. So what did your training like growing up look like? Like what did your workouts look like?
Uh, so I really was overweight and out of shape, like as in elementary school. Um, and then my brother was like, "Hey, do you want to play football?" And like he asked me that. It really wasn't hesitation. I was like, "Sure." And I didn't really know what I got myself into, like what it took and um, what the expectation was, and kind of like the journey it led to. But I wanted to play. I kind of started watching football, and I took like a year before I got into like contact football to like get myself in shape, and did a lot of like banded resistance, a lot of body weight, those type of things. Didn't really lift until I got into middle school, but I just did like the little stuff to try to get myself in a more reasonable shape to play football.
Yeah, I think for me, I didn't really even start like working out until probably my junior year of high school. Like
Yeah,
actually, you know what I mean? Like with football or with baseball, like I did the workouts and I went as hard as I could, but I didn't really get strong or like see any benefit to it until junior year. Like I always worked hard at my sport and I always did the extra mile stuff like for baseball outside of the season, but I didn't really see any benefit
yeah,
to working out. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So, and for me, once I started to get like recruited for baseball, and then you start seeing like some videos of like how those guys train at the next level, like big time schools,
yeah,
then it's like, okay, well, like I'm maximizing my practice time, but now like what do I need to do outside of that to maximize that time too?
yeah,
So I can like progress on the field. Like I'm already practicing as much as I can on the field. to like what can I do in the weight room to like maximize that too.
I feel like that's pretty rare though. Somebody that gets a Division I scholarship and doesn't take the weight room serious,
Right.
and then on the back end of it, doing the work. And I mean, and I saw the switch flip when I was in high school with you. So like, I saw you and Peyton, y'all were at the field house like after football practice working out, and then like you know in the evenings and stuff. And then I kind of migrated into that with y'all, and then and it led to a lot of like fun times and probably our best memories growing up and like high school. That senior year of high school, like most people say like I'm ready to get out of high school, but it's like I can always go back to that year and that summer and that kind of season and look back and like, it would be great to relive that, but also what it's carried into as relationships and where we're at now. So
Yeah.
like it's like a fun time to look back on and where it's led to now.
Yeah, that was like foundational for our relationship because, looking back when we started to become friends and like almost living in the weight room, like me and you were going through like tough times at home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was like our escape.
Yeah.
Like let's go train before football, during football, after football. And then when it's baseball season and you run track, me and Peyton are going to lift after baseball, and then after track you would come lift with us again.
Yeah.
And that's like super fun. That was fun, and those are like core memories that we have. Um, so we graduate, right?
hmm
You're going to play college football. I'm playing I'm going to play college baseball. So that summer that you just talked about, you and your older brother pretty much lived with me,
Yeah.
right? Y'all came and uh, and just lived with me the whole summer. What do you remember specifically about that summer?
I mean, I know we were at the high school a lot and, you know, yeah, I mean, it was just fun. I mean, the biggest memory was just sleeping in the same house in like either your room or in your bed or like in the on the couch. The couch is definitely something you gotta keep.
Yeah, we ended up getting rid of the couch this most recent time we moved, but yeah, you and Cody sleeping on the couch or wherever y'all did, and like this is where like we started talking about like opening a gym
Yeah,
later on down the road, and we started to like stockpile all the equipment.
yeah,
So like all the sales that we'd find,
yeah,
we'd go and you know find some deals online or on marketplace or whatever, and start stockpiling all this equipment
yeah.
because we couldn't afford to like go train at another like to pay somewhere, to use their facilities
Yeah.
to train.
And we actually had conversations on the phone. I mean, I remember in the evenings and at late at night of like what it looked like to open up a gym or what it looked like to have our own training place. And, we would toss out ideas and a lot of them seemed kind of, you know, foolish or just didn't really know what it took. But it's like we were throwing out the ideas, and so we started stockpiling equipment. And one of the first things you need in a gym or equipment wise is like flooring. So like we went to Tractor Supply and on Black Friday, and they don't do this anymore, but we bought some horse stall mats, and that was our rubber flooring. And then I think your dad bought the pull-up bar that we had, and we had a barbell and a squat rack, and we had like the essentials, and that's what we started with.
Yeah,
And
let's talk about the garage then. So we had a pull-up bar, we had a squat rack, we had a barbell, we had some flooring,
eventually
and,
got a GHD,
and we eventually had a GHD.
and then we had like a wall ball or two.
Right. Yeah. Okay. We had like a couple med
Yeah,
balls.
but those were
So
later on. But yeah,
yeah. So that was basically our program, and that was good enough. Like that was good enough to train us to get to college
yeah,
because we had that. We probably had a couple dumbbells,
yeah,
and then over the breaks, Thanksgiving break and Christmas break, we may have got a few more stuff, but that was pretty much it. And that was good enough. Like when they send our off-season
yeah,
packets to come home, and like we had everything we need.
yeah.
We didn't have to go anywhere.
I think we got a kettlebell for Christmas,
Yep.
and that was big. Um, but yeah, I mean, we had everything we needed, and like the only thing we didn't have was heat. That was not.
We
You know,
didn't have heat.
I wish we had heat.
Okay. All right. So we didn't have heat. And over Christmas break, absolutely freezing.
Yeah.
Do you remember we'd have to take the barbells inside, or we'd bring them in overnight,
Yeah.
and so they're warm, or they're decent, you know. And then and then we go out and turn the dryer because we had the washer and the dryer
Yeah.
in the garage. So we would turn the dryer on, and it would be so humid in there.
Yeah.
And
But it'd be about 10 degrees warmer. And so it went from about 25 to about 35, 40. So it made it bearable, but we're still hoodie, leggings, baseball, football gloves on, trying to grab the core barbell. Um, yeah, it was funny.
and that's like that, and those are the times we look back on,
Yeah.
and like that's what we started with.
Yeah.
And now, like our gym, like Vessel isn't huge,
No.
but compared to that, like how much more is it?
Oh, it's a luxury at this point.
It really is
Yeah.
because we have to eat.
Yeah. We
Like
have
that's
to
the
eat.
biggest thing. When we met with the DDA,
Yeah.
we emphasize like we can do without air,
Yeah. We
but
have
we need
fans,
heat.
but we need heat.
But we need heat. So we trained there pretty much our whole freshman year,
Yeah.
and then maybe the summer after freshman year,
Yeah.
because I remember Peyton coming back and us working out in there. Um, but at what point did you move into the house in like your first home?
It was like the fall time, so it was like going into winter. I think it was like December 1st or end of November of 20, I want to say 18,
That sounds about right.
about 2 years after we graduated. So
Why
yeah,
did you pick that house?
because it had a huge barn garage type thing in the back that you really didn't really know what to do with. It was 3 stories, but like you couldn't really renovate it because of the way it was zoned and the way it was on the property. It was kind of grandfathered in, but you really couldn't fix it up to a house because the way you'd have to get rezoned and it was a whole process. And then,
Somebody just built that
yeah,
thing.
they just built it, and then the city and the county came out and was like, well, we're not going to tell you to tear it down, but this is as far as you can go with it. So like they started fixing it up, like they started putting like a bathroom and stuff at the top, but the bottom was concrete, and you'd walk in and there was plenty of space for like a lower part gym. We ripped down like a wall eventually to create some more space, but yeah, we moved everything in there, and we had a nice gym that we didn't have lights either.
We didn't have
We
lights.
didn't have we
We'd have
got
to open up all the
Yeah, we
doors.
opened up all the doors, and then we eventually got lights, and we're
Dad
like,
got us some lights.
yeah, so
Okay.
like this is what it looks like to have lights. And if it looks like we compared the before and after, we're like, okay, so this is a significant difference.
Right. We
Um,
were blind, but
yeah,
then we were able to see.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
What else equipment did we get while we were there? Because that's where we got like a
yeah, so
lot for
so
us.
during COVID, you know, um, we started stockpiling equipment because people like prices kind of fluctuated, so they went down a little bit and they went back up. But a lot of people started buying equipment, and so we got like more plates. We got like a bike, a ski erg. We got like kind of the luxury things to do working out wise.
Rowers. We may have had like
Yeah,
2 rowers.
yeah. I think we eventually got a real rower. Maybe before that or somewhere in that time we got a rower. Trying to think what else we had. We got another pull-up bar, a lot more dumbbells. Um, but
Everything. I mean, it was a full
yeah, it was
setup.
a full setup. So like we could train. We actually had another guy come in and train with us. If you want to talk about that.
Yeah, yeah. So, all right. So during COVID, you know, we're in the middle of baseball season in college, and we end up having to come back home.
Yeah.
And Katie came down too. So I think we were engaged at that point.
Yeah.
Yes, because we're about to get married the summer of 2020. So we're engaged at that point. She comes back. She's still playing college soccer, and so that is like that's what we do. Like over COVID, we had nothing else to do but
Yeah.
eat, work out, eat again, work out some more, and go to sleep and do it all over again. And so my neighbor, he was a freshman in high school, and he had hopes of playing college baseball, which he does now. Um, he tagged along with us like every day,
Yeah.
and he did everything we programmed. He
And that's
never
what
complained once.
that's what his dad told him to do.
Yeah,
He's like, do it wherever they do, you do it. And yeah, so I mean, like he took ice baths, he took everything. He did everything that we did.
yeah,
And and to a degree, as being older guys, we kind of like wanted to see what he was willing to do, and we would still do it. But it was just funny to see him willing to do everything that we were willing to do because he saw that the results of it. But he did that the whole time, and I think it benefited him a lot. But it was just funny and fun to have another workout partner, somebody
yeah,
that was kind of on the outside that wanted to come train with us, and then um, that was a fun time during COVID. Like I know COVID is a touchy subject for a lot of people, but like for us, it was like we were homebodies. We don't like getting out much, anyways. Um, so like we just hung out together and just stayed at home and then worked out and we did the things that we like to do. And then I think that was, it made a scary time a lot more enjoyable.
right. Yeah, because being locked down definitely like wasn't fun
No,
for anybody, but us being able to have that at home,
yeah,
like instead of us having to go to the gym, because a lot of gyms were shut down.
yeah,
And so, thinking about that now, like if that were to happen again, like what would we do,
yeah,
with having an actual like facility?
yeah,
But that was nice to have, because while other athletes maybe didn't have the luxury of training the way we did because we had that whole setup already. Like it went from me and you training to me, you, Katie, and then my old neighbor.
yeah,
And so it felt packed out in there,
yeah,
just four of us.
yeah,
And we were able to do all the training we're supposed to be doing plus more,
yeah,
and it kind of gave us an edge when we all got back and got to play our last year of sports.
yeah. Yeah, and like kind of go back to like high school was like we got into CrossFit and that was kind of what we stuck with training moving forward, even though like we had our own training programs from school, it just seemed like this worked more efficient. And like I started like in January of 2016 doing it. And, like I got more mobile, I got stronger, I got faster, and then I got in better shape. And usually conditioning and strength are inverse correlated, where you have to kind of sacrifice one to get the other. And it was a sweet spot in the middle where like I got in better shape, but I also got significantly stronger. And it was kind of like that's where it sold. And then like I felt more mobile and I didn't really feel like I was like banged up as much. Like I had to didn't really have to stretch nearly as much to get the same results. And like that's kind of where I was sold on the programming of like of this and leading all the way up into college and past college.
So talk about that some more. Talk about how, we follow a lot of what CrossFit does,
Hmm.
and I feel like a lot of the times CrossFit gets a bad rap, and then maybe talk about the tweaks that we make because a lot of the times, and especially the way we used to
Yeah,
train, was like just get beat down
yeah,
every single day,
yeah,
and we try to make that a little different here. You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like maybe talk about how some of our methodology is rooted in CrossFit, but also like we also tweak it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like kind of a typical CrossFit workout is like you warm up, you hit your lift, and then you're metcon and you're done. And like you can be in and out in 30 minutes to an hour. And it's like that's great and all, but it's like where are the pieces in there to keep you sustained? Like where like yes, you got your strength piece, your main strength piece, but where's the accessories? So where is the injury prevention? And that's kind of where we differ is like we are very we yes, we are former college athletes, so we understand like the sport specific stuff. And like in that we understand like prehab, rehab and those things. So we implement a lot of injury prevention in the warm up and the core and the accessories, and those help you more obviously injury prevention, but just longevity to do the programming long term. And you're not going to feel as beat up, and it feels like the next day you could probably go in and do another workout versus like, oh, I got to take 2 or 3 days off, and now I'm kind of very volatile in my training where it's more consistent. I feel like the way we do it.
Yeah, and like I can relate with it now more. Of like I'm never not fired up to be in the gym,
Yeah,
and I know some people are,
yeah,
but with all the running I've been doing,
yeah,
uh, absolutely dread
Yeah.
running. Like I don't like because I have to do this marathon. Like I know what I have to do.
Yeah.
I know what's on the plan for today, and I have to do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't want other people walking in the gym, seeing the workout on the app, and being like, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
I don't want to go to the gym today."
Yeah.
So we got to have the balance of like go hard on the days you need to go hard, but also have some days that's like we just
Yeah.
need to break a sweat.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I feel like we do a balance of that. So like we have our warm up, our core, and that's kind of a mixture. We have our lift, our accessories, and then we might have a conditioning piece at the end, and then like kind of that day that you just want to break a sweat, we have like an active recovery day built in the middle of the week. So if you are working out 3 to 5 times a week, you have that in there to recover, and then you can feel like, oh, I feel productive because I sweat, I got out of breath, um, heart rate up and all this stuff, but I don't feel as beat down. I can kind of recover a little bit, and then continue the program the rest of the week.
All right, let's take a step back. So I kind of got ahead of myself, but now me and Katie are still at school. We're married at this point, and you move into another new house. How did our gym setup change then?
So we moved everything over um, into the garage, and it just got a little more organized. And I wouldn't say like the amount of equipment we got, you know, drastically increased at the beginning, but we did start accumulating more. And it was somewhere along the lines of like 2 or 3 years ago. We were like, maybe we should actually like start pushing into Vessel, which we had the idea of Vessel, since high school into college. Really, freshman year of college, we had the idea of Vessel, the name, kind of the logo, and all that. So we had even shirts made. Um, but you started mentioning that. Like, wait, let's take steps. So we'll start training athletes. So we started training some athletes on the side, and then that turned into, well, maybe we should try to find a building. And then, if you want to talk about how we got the building, and then it kind of went off from there.
All right, so I get back from ABCA,
Hmm.
and I think this one was in Nashville, which is like a big coaching conference,
Yeah.
And so for whatever reason, I just felt like this urgency of like we need to do this.
Yeah.
Like we need to just jump in and figure it out,
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what it takes. So we actually start like looking for a building.
Yeah.
Everywhere is so expensive.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to make money, you know. So I get it. So I kind of knew that we need to find somewhere that we can either build a place out or somewhere that's like not necessarily for sale or for rent, because that's going to be like the cheapest option for us. And then maybe if it's somewhere that's just sitting there,
Yeah.
and then we come to them, they're like, oh yeah, they'll take kind of whatever we offer.
Yeah.
So, and this is where like our current spot is, which is in Ringgold. We've grown up here forever. We've passed by this building a million times and like never even noticed it. People pass by here all the time and don't notice it, Um, so I pass by it and I see it and I'm like, dang, I wonder who owns that place. And so next door um, was or is, I'm not sure if it still is, but like a cigar shop. So I was like, I'll just call it cigar shop, see if he knows who owns it. And sure enough, he does. He gives me two phone numbers um, to two individuals at the DDA here in town. So I call them, and I don't remember if I talked to one and then they pointed me in the direction of the other one, or if it was the first one that I called. But eventually, I talked to this guy, and he's like, "Yeah, like, what do you want to do with the building?" And I was like, "Well, we want to put a gym." And he's like asking questions, like, "What kind of gym? Like 24-hour gym?" Like, no, like it's like a functional fitness gym. Like if you know anything kind of about CrossFit, kind of like that.
Yeah.
And honestly, he didn't sound very interested. And so I was like, oh well. But he was like, oh, I'll call you by the end of the week. And he called me back like 15 minutes later.
Yeah.
I guess had talked to some people. And so he called me back like 15 minutes later and he was like, yeah, we're actually kind of interested. Like, would you want to meet and see the place?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it was the next day or next couple days.
Yeah.
met with him. He gave me the dimensions. The building's 60 by 40 basically, so it's 2,400 square feet, and it was a hole,
Yeah.
like rotten boards, like
Waterlogged,
water everywhere.
musty smell.
Yeah, terrible, right? And so he's like, yeah, it'll be a lot of work, but like, and so I had kind of seen this vision of it, of what it could be.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to explain like what I'm seeing in my head, and I don't know if anybody's really seeing what I'm seeing, you know. Um, but the construction team that we end up using is like one of our childhood
Yeah.
friends, like best friends. And so I can like kind of draw it out and show him, and he knows exactly what I'm saying. I'm like, let's go. Um, so this is funny. So the guy for the DDA gives us what? How long before we had to make that pitch?
I don't know, maybe a week.
Okay, maybe a
I don't
week.
even, I don't remember the
Okay, so
exact time.
maybe a week.
Yeah.
So we're calling like all the gym contacts we know. The guy that um, where I trained at, like my last year of school,
Yeah.
and he was a huge help, like figuring out how to write a business plan,
Yeah.
like all this stuff that we're workout people.
We don't know how to do
We're not
business.
business.
Yeah.
It's
Our degrees were teaching and education and science, not business.
right. So we're figuring this out
Yeah.
on the fly. So we have to meet with the committee and like present a PowerPoint presentation. And
Which,
so
we know how to do that.
right, like that was fine. But I just think about it now of us going in there with those polos we had made.
Yeah. And everybody else is in there just like casually dressed.
And we're in khakis
Yeah.
and some custom vessel polos
Yeah.
making this sales pitch.
Yeah.
And thank the Lord, they liked it.
Yeah.
So what year was that? The first sales
That
pitch
had to be
happened.
23, I think. Was
Okay.
it 23?
Okay,
Or was it,
23.
or maybe 22? Because no, it was in, yeah, it's 23 because it was like in February,
Okay.
January, February, somewhere in that range. And so it was cold. I remember that. And so we did the sales pitch, and then I think they called us back like pretty soon.
Yeah.
And they're like, everybody loved it, let's do it. And then we started hashing out, like the details of the agreement and all that stuff. And, but yeah, it just turned into something that was like far fetched to like, oh, it's happening. And then it was like a 2-year process of like construction and like engineer and all the plans and stuff. And in that process we were buying more equipment and and there was a lot of ups and downs, but we knew that this is what we felt like the Lord wanted us to do, and we just kept our foot on the gas and like you know putting trust in Him and like keep pushing into that. Like, yeah, everything's not working out the way we want, and there was a lot of ups and downs, but we just kept saying like, this is what we feel like He's asked us to do, and we're going to keep doing that.
That's a great point. Like, talk about that for a second. How just because we know and we believe that the Lord's hand has been on this
No,
does not mean it's going to be a cakewalk.
no, no. I mean, I think that it talks about in Scripture of like the testing and the trial of your faith. You know, patience. Those things are developed in trial and difficulty. So it's like, if we want to have the easy way out, definitely faith is not it. You know, uh, faith without works is dead. So if we feel like this is the work the Lord was asking us to do, and it took a lot of faith on the way to walk it step by step, and there was ups and downs, and there was a lot of times during the process of the 2 years of us doing it, like we thought it was either going to fall through. We didn't know where the money was going to come from. We didn't know, what was going to happen here or here. Um, and then it just worked out. And we just kept pushing and like, not trying to get ahead of the Lord, but just like trying to stay in step with Him of like, this is what He's asked us to do, and we're going to keep walking it out until we see it through.
Yeah. And those, like the battles, you talk about trials, like I dealt with that like internally.
Yeah,
Uh, like physically we saw like things want to go down
yeah,
or whatever, but I was dealing with like the mental side of it. I remember before we had to sign the loan, like before this place of me like feeling really sick.
Yeah.
And then having to have the discernment of who is that speaking that to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of like, is this the Lord telling me not to go through it? Or is this like the enemy trying to deter me of these goals that we originally believed that the Lord had set for us?
Yeah.
And so we talked about that, like
Yeah.
me calling you, and
Yeah.
and that communication between us has been like really key. And I think that pretty much every book or like any video you see about going into business with friends,
Yeah.
it tells you not to.
Yeah.
So, but we did it anyway,
Yeah.
and so far it's paid off. And I think, us being best friends, like we're able to communicate with each other without like hurting each other's feelings,
Oh.
which has been like really good. What do you think? Like, what do you like? What was your side of it? Like when we were about to have to sign the loan, which to me at the time felt like a ton of money.
Yeah.
Ultimately, in the big scheme of things, it's really not.
No.
But like, what was your side of things? Like, did you ever have any like second thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's normal, but it's like I think seeing the Lord's hand on it from day one, day two, day three, of people either giving us stuff that we didn't expect them to give. Like people would just say, "Hey, like we believe in what you're doing. Here's something free," which didn't always happen, but it just seemed to continue to happen of like people buying into the mission and the vision. Um, to even like the logo that we had. I drew it as a kid, and I didn't even know that I drew it. And we actually have
We
it,
have it. Yeah, it's
it's on the
hanging up.
wall.
Yeah.
And it's like I drew that when I was, I don't know, 3, 5 years old, maybe younger. And one of our brothers was like, it's in the house, that logo. And I was like, there's no way. I didn't believe him because like there's no way. And he brought me this exact logo that we use today, which one of my other brothers designed and developed back in 2017. So there was no like talks about this at all. So I think it just kind of speaks to like the gifts and dreams that God puts in you at even at a young age, that when you have kids, you start to see kids do things that are very innocent and very like, they just want to do what is right for a lot of the time. So like my daughter, like didn't even teach her who Jesus was, and in a sense like she was a year and a half, and then she points to um, a picture, a very small picture, like a little um, kind of like a clay dish that had like a picture of Jesus on it. She said, "Jesus, Jesus." Didn't even teach her. So it's like those things are in us, and just those things are eventually start to come out.
And that's a testament to y'all too, because kids at that age are like sponges.
Yeah,
And so you and your wife modeling that, like she just absorbs it like a sponge.
yeah. Well, I mean, I agree, but I also disagree in the sense of like I don't know where she saw that, because like she didn't really see like a lot of like images or pictures of Jesus at that age, and you don't really, yes, they're sponges, but it's like it was such a small picture and it just caught us off guard. But it's like, it was pretty crazy. And now like she picks up things so quickly. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that to go back to the question and stuff is like, yeah, I had doubts, but it's like you always have to go back to what the Lord is speaking to you, like, you know, and what you believe He's called you to do, and you stand in those things, and you stand on His word, and like that's what leads and guides you, and versus letting circumstance deter you and circumstance derail you, and be led by peace versus confusion.
Yeah, because feelings change.
Yeah,
Feelings 100% change, but you got to stand on that truth of the word.
yeah,
So about 2 years of construction
yeah.
ish, right? The construction actually didn't take,
No, construction took
but the
like
lead up time.
3 or 4 months. Yeah,
So how how did that end up playing in our favor? Because it did.
yeah,
If it was up to our timeline,
yeah,
like we would have met with the city, which was around January or February. And our plan was, because construction only took what, 3 or 4 months,
Hmm.
we were hoping to be in by summertime.
Yeah.
But it actually took, like, how many summers passed before we got in here?
Probably
Two
a
or
year and a half or 2 years after that. So we
okay, so
got,
like 2 summers
yeah,
passed.
because we got in January, or really February of 2025 is when we opened.
Right. So how did that end up playing in our favor?
A lot. I mean, it made it a little more confident because we went through the process of doing everything, but also like the learning. Like you don't really understand how much you don't know how to run a business until you start to try to run a business. And like we gave us like a 2 year of like, I don't know, incubation period of like learning things and going to other gyms and kind of figure things out and modeling what they do and trying to implement to ourselves. And then like, um, yeah, and then you know, I had my daughter, and I couldn't imagine like the lead up if I had, opened as she was just born versus like, her getting a rhythm of sleeping and doing other things. And um, my wife started working from home, and so that helped a little bit too, like at home versus the balance of the gym. And then, yeah,
Yeah, that definitely helped us. Like,
yeah,
we had many conversations of us like, what if we'd have been open by now?
yeah,
Like, we would have figured it out, but I think ultimately it would have just been harder on
yeah,
us because we were able to figure things out without being in the fire.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, we were still
yeah.
out of it.
I think that's like, yeah, the 2 years was frustrating in the sense of like the ups and downs, but it's like in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't really like a pressure of like, now you got to do it all yourself and get things running. It's like we kind of figured out as we went, and then it just worked out better that way. I think the Lord knew what He was doing
Yeah,
more than we did.
yeah. His plans are always better.
Yeah,
And then when we were actually moving stuff in was like the same time that my wife and I were moving into our first home.
yeah,
So she had graduated uh, from grad school, and then we had, like, I guess that was in May, and we moved into the house in November, which is pretty much the same time. So that was kind of hectic,
yeah,
trying to move stuff everywhere, but that was almost best
yeah.
because,
We had to move it twice.
yeah, all the equipment we had stockpiled was at storage, like at our apartment complex. So instead of moving it to my house and then back here, we were able just to move it here and then move, our stuff home.
Yeah,
So that ended up working out too.
yeah,
It's crazy how it all works out.
yeah.
And then when did so we move in? That was hectic because we're trying to put everything in. We're here till like super late nights, and it's
Yeah,
just me and you. And I'm in the middle of baseball season,
yeah,
coaching baseball. You're out of season from
yeah,
coaching football, so you would come here after school, do as much as you could, and then I'd come after practice, and we'd do as much as we could together,
yeah.
and do that all over again for probably a span of how many weeks?
Probably two at least.
Yeah,
Yeah,
2 weeks. Yeah, at least 2 or 3 weeks maybe. Um, when did it feel once we got everything moved in? We had probably me and you were able to work out here for how long before we started having members?
probably 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
another 2 weeks. So we probably had a whole month or so of transition time. And then when did it feel real of like, wow, this is ours?
Um, it probably felt real when we first started putting the flooring down. Right, seeing it kind of like go from a shell, went from nothing to a shell to now, we're actually moving things in and we're starting to piece together. In that 2 year span, we talked about where we're going to put equipment, where we're going to put this, and kind of draw it out and try to take the heavy work out of the way first. But it's like you really don't know where things are going to go until you see it. And so, like, we did move some things to a different spot than we originally thought, but for the most part, I felt we put things where we thought. But when you start seeing the equipment go from storage and in boxes or in your garage to now where it should be, that's when it started really feeling real.
Yeah, That felt real. I think it felt real to me when we had the first people sign up
Yeah.
that we didn't know.
Yeah.
Like that just felt cool.
Yeah.
You expect your friends and family to come in and drop by and,
Yeah.
and work out with you. But when we had people that like you don't know
Mhm.
and now you're like leading classes
Yeah.
of people you don't know, that's like, okay, this is it. Like
Yeah.
this is what we're here for. Like this is cool. I remember leading one of the first classes
Mhm.
and because all the workouts are like scalable, we're trying to make some accommodations for an individual. And and they were like, what can I do instead of this movement? And I was like, well, what do you want to do? And I asked that, and they were like, well, you're the expert.
Yeah.
And that's when it hit me of like, yeah, I guess I am.
Yeah.
In this setting, they are trusting me with their fitness. Um, so I need to have the answers.
Yeah.
It's not so much a preference. Like they're paying for me to pretty much, tell them what to do. Like they're trusting me with their goals. And so that hit me pretty hard of like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Go do this instead.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little different training. Like both of us as the strength coaches at our schools, and you for baseball, me for football. Like we both train athletes, and like it's just different having adults. You know, in a sense, it's easier because they listen a little better. But um, but yeah, I mean, it's just a little different. It just kind of hits you different, you know. And but yeah, I mean that it's been cool. I mean, it's been a great support of the community and great support of the city. Like the city helped us out a lot, and then but just to see where it started, go back and like as just a dream in 2017, and then you know, basically 7 years later of actually coming to pass. You know,
That's that's so true. Last thing, and then we'll wrap it up. You're talking about the city, and this is a small town
hmm
that we grew up in our whole life. We moved away for college, but then, you know, when we're in high school, people say here like, I can't wait to leave this town.
yeah,
Well, we left and like couldn't wait to come back
yeah,
to to move away and then to come back is pretty cool. And just to see how the community of people that we don't necessarily know, even though it's a small town, have
hmm
supported us because we're like hometown guys, has been pretty cool to see. And so, what has the DDA like? How big of a help have they been to us?
Well, I mean, so much that if they didn't help us, we wouldn't be here. I mean, just that the DDA has helped in the sense of like covering costs that we didn't have, or leading us in the right direction to get a low interest loan, or I mean, they were there through that whole 2 years of like when things didn't seem like they were going our way, like they kind of stepped in and like kind of guided the ship and helped keep it on track. And it was very helpful having them in our corner.
100%. Like they have been such a help, and such an asset to us. Like you said, like I don't think we'd be here without them, and their guidance really, because they said from day one, like once they were kind of all in,
Yeah,
and like we want we want you guys to succeed.
yeah,
And so they've made pretty much every provision for us to succeed
yeah,
in where we are. And they want to see us grow.
yeah,
And they've had a ribbon cutting for us. And
yeah.
they've done all this cool stuff for us, that I don't know if other cities do.
No, probably not.
If we were in a bigger city, like I don't think we would get that welcoming.
Yeah,
So I think that's about it.
yeah,
That's that's pretty much from start to finish
yeah.
of where we are now. Anything else? No? All right. Well, that was episode 1 of the Vessel Podcast. We hope that you enjoyed the stories. Um, hope they were relatable for you, and hope that you guys all like and subscribe and do all the social things.